Hi people, it's me Anja, my pronouns are she and her, and welcome back to my channel for my 2022 reading wrap up. So I'm going to be taking some stats from Goodreads and discussing them. So basically, as the title suggests, I did indeed read 450 books in 2022, which is all the books that I completed because I don't keep track of the books that I DNF'd. And I don't necessarily review on BookTube every single book that I've ever read because that is a lot of books to review. So in case you want to keep up with my book ratings more frequently than I do on BookTube, you can friend me on Goodreads because my account is linked in the description box below. So anyway, I digress. The point is, I read 450 books in 2022, which totals to 147,686 pages. My average book length was 328 pages. My average rating was 3.4, which doesn't surprise me at all because I read a lot of middle grade books, which I feel like I'm known for on BookTube. And middle grade books tend to be less than 300 pages, so my average book length doesn't really surprise me. My average book rating doesn't surprise me either, which I'll get into later when I talk about the percentage of books that I rated 3 stars versus 4 and 5 stars. So anyway, the next pattern that I noticed over my 2022 reading year was the tropes that I started to dislike versus like. A trope that I realized last year that I hated is academic rivals to lovers. I just hate that trope so much. I already knew that I disliked enemies to lovers, but I didn't realize that I also dislike rivals to lovers, just because I feel like in contemporary settings especially, having a rival just seems so petty and so immature and so annoying, especially in academic settings. Why do you care if so-and-so gets better grades than you? Who cares? Maybe I just think that because I was homeschooled and I never went to public high school. So yeah, maybe I just don't get it. But yeah, anyway, a trope that I found out that I like more is fake dating. I used to dislike it because I used to find it to be predictable, because usually obviously the person that you're fake dating, you end up real dating. So I felt like before their chemistry had already been established through fake dating instead of through real dating. I don't know if that makes any sense. But basically this past year I started to enjoy it a lot more, and I've really enjoyed it more. So in 2023, I hope to read more books with fake dating and less with academic rivals to lovers. So yeah, those were the two tropes that caught my eye, I guess, more this past year, I mean. So yeah, there's that. As for my monthly reading stats, which I'm so excited to dive into because this is absolutely my favorite feature of Goodreads, honestly. Let's get started. We're going to go in chronological order because I didn't have time to sort this from best to worst or worst to best or whatever. So basically, starting in January, since obviously that's the first month of the year, I read 26 books. That's so bad. Well, for me. All of these numbers are obviously subjective, but for me, 26 is rather disappointing, honestly, for the first month of the year, especially since the first half of it, I wasn't in school or anything, because school didn't start until the middle of January, so I don't know why I read 26 books, but I did. In February, I read 25 books, which is also disappointing, even though, I should give myself some grace, since February is obviously the shortest month of the year. But anyway, in March, I really amped it up. I read 44 books, which was absolutely so satisfying and so nice. In April, I read 29 books. In May, 36. June, 35. July, 30. August, 40. September, 52. October, 55. November, 34. And December, 44. So that was really satisfying. And I will add, though, that in mid-September, I found myself falling in love with graphic novels more so. So that's why those numbers in the latter half of the year are so high, because graphic novels are obviously shorter. So with that said, it took me less time to read them than a regular novel, even though I'm already a fast reader in general. You know what I mean? So yeah, I hope that makes sense. I can't believe that I read so much in the summer, even though I had a summer job. I was anticipating reading less over the summer because I had my job. But I guess I still found time to read in the pockets of time that I still had. So anyway, I feel like on BookTube, another thing that I'm known for is reading new releases. So I went through like my year in books on Goodreads and I manually counted how many books weren't new releases, and it turns out that only 87 of them weren't new releases, which doesn't really surprise me because I started to notice in all of my recent reads videos that I posted last year, I would talk about a new release like in every single one. So the fact that there were only 87 books that I read last year that didn't come out in 2022 doesn't really surprise me. So yeah. Anyway, of the 450 books, I rated 143 of them 4 out of 5 stars, 18 of them 5 stars, and 289 of them 3 stars. So only 36% of the books that I read last year were 4 and 5 stars. Of the 18, I will be dedicating an entire video to that next when I talk about my favorite books of the year. And I'm so excited to do that because all of those books were absolutely so amazing and so well done. So yeah, that's why I'm not exactly surprised that my average rating this year was a 3.4, since literally only 36%, like I mentioned, I rated 4 and 5 stars. So yeah, that tracks. Anyway, like I mentioned, I did get into more graphic novels this past year, so I also counted that up, and 64 of the books that I read last year were graphic novels and the rest weren't. I would say that I read mostly ebooks last year, some of which were physical books, but most of the time I just used Libby in my local libraries to find books. So yeah, if you didn't know, I do borrow books a lot of the time, more over buying books. In fact, I don't buy books at all because I don't have money. So yeah, there's that. Anyway, I feel like another thing I'm known for on Goodreads is reading more middle grade books over YA and adult books, so I also wanted to count that. So basically, according to Goodreads, 246 of the books that I read last year were YA, 9 were adult, and the rest were middle grade. So actually, I read more YA books last year than middle grade books, which may surprise some people, because on Book Twitter, whenever I ask people what I'm known for on BookTube, they always say middle grade books, but actually I read more YA books. So yeah. Anyway, as for the genres that I read last year, if you didn't know, my favorite genres are fantasy, contemporary, and historical fiction. So technically I tend to gravitate towards those more often, and I feel like I kind of grew out of YA fantasy this past year because a lot of the books that I read that were YA fantasy, especially YA Asian fantasies, were so disappointing for some reason. So anyway, not to say that I'm reading less fantasy in 2023, but yeah, that's just another pattern that I noticed. But anyway, I digress. The point is, of the contemporary books, and I included like thrillers in this, and I also manually counted this, so my numbers may be off a little bit because I'm not good at math. But anyway, of the contemporary books, of all the stories that were set in modern day, I read 185 of them. Of fantasy books, I read 202. So even though I felt like I was growing out of YA fantasies, I guess I read more fantasy books than contemporary books because I did like count YA and middle grade together, because since those are age groups and not genres, like I combined them. But anyway, the rest of the books that I read this past year were other genres such as historical fiction, science fiction, dystopian, etc. So basically, if my numbers are right, I guess I read 40% of the books were contemporary, 44% were fantasy, and the rest were other genres. So yeah, there's that. Another thing that I decided to count for some reason was like how diverse my reading year actually was, because a thing that I'm known for on BookTube is being a diverse reader, but I always think to myself that I'm not as diverse as people say that I am. I just feel like people say that because I obviously read a lot more than like the average person or whatever, so people say that I'm a diverse reader, but I don't actually believe them really, because I feel like if everyone read as fast as I did, then I wouldn't actually be such an anomaly, if that makes any sense. So yeah, I read over 100 queer books, over 100 POC books, and probably like a lot of books with disabled main characters as well, but there's a lot of like overlap, so I don't know exactly how accurate those numbers are. But like I said, I'm not feeling good at math. In fact, reading is my only talent, which isn't really a surprise because obviously I read a lot. So anyway, those are my reading stats. They weren't really in any particular order. I hope that this video was insightful. As for my 2023 channel goals, I suppose I'm still trying to upload 3 times a week. I don't know if you noticed, but in my last video, I tried to fix my audio so it doesn't sound as crappy as it usually does. So if you noticed that, thanks. If you didn't notice anything, that's valid too. But anyway, yeah, there you have it. I read 450 books in 2022. It was such a satisfying and happy year for me. Reading wise, like I said, I don't necessarily set numerical reading goals, so in 2023, I just hope to read more and more diversely and continue to do that. So yeah, without any further ado, that's the end of this video. If you enjoyed this video, please don't hesitate to give it a big thumbs up. Comment down below the panda emoji if you made it all the way to the end of the video. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to my channel if you're new, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.